Girona is a cycling hotspot. It's a place I've been lucky enough to call home for the last 8 years now. So in this video, I'm going to give you some insider tips about things you should know about Girona from someone who's been here for 8 years and counting. Hey there everyone, my name is Louise and I'm one of the founders of Eat Sleep Cycle, a bike shop and cycling tour operator based in Girona, Spain. If you'd like tips about travelling in Spain and abroad, hit that subscribe button. The first tip is to make sure you're riding your bike in the right direction. The Girona Old Town is called the Barri Vell and it has a really clear it's not that clear, is it? It has a really unclear one-way system around it, which we really need to stick to as riders. Now, the town hall have recently put up signs to make it a little bit clearer, but it's really important to check which way you need to turn out of your front door. So if you go the wrong way, you're risking quite a hefty fine and also irritating a lot of the local people who live here. So as cyclists, we really want to just respect the local traffic laws, do your homework, find out which way is the right way and stick to the one-way system. My next tip is to be aware of a wind called the Tramuntana wind. So yes, it's a wind that's so strong that it has its own name. I've seen forecasts before when it's up to 70 miles an hour, and really that is not a wind you want to be riding a lightweight carbon bike in. So for me, when I see it's windy day, I avoid Emporda completely. That's the flat bit to the east of Girona, and if you really have to ride, I would head to the west into the mountains where it's more sheltered. My next tip is about the weather. So I know when we think of Girona that an image of beautiful, perfect weather comes to mind. However, while it is generally really lovely all of the year, it is worth being aware of the humidity. So from around April through to the end of October, the humidity is really, really high. So this means in summer when temperatures are hitting sometimes 40, so sort of mid-30s to high 40s, it feels really, really intense. And the same goes when it's a bit colder in the mornings in the spring, it can feel really, really cold. When temperatures hit zero, it's like really cold. So just be aware of bringing the right kit for the conditions and don't be scared of non-perfect sunshine. My next tip is what to do if you're unlucky enough to get wet weather whilst you're here. So because Girona is generally really dry, when the roads are wet, they are really, really dangerous. So I think there's a few things you can do. For me, if it's raining, like many local riders, I just choose not to ride and I wait for it to stop and go out later. If you're in a position where you really, really must ride, then for sure you need to let some pressure out your tyres and you need to corner really, really slowly. So when you see local riders corner in the rain, they are going as slow as possible because you really can't predict if your wheel's going to come out. I would also choose your route wisely. So there's a couple of routes I would not go near on a wet day. And I've seen lots of riders come back with scraped up knees, cut up elbows because they've taken some corners too fast. So just be wise if you are riding in the rain. My next tip is to be aware of the difference between Spain and Catalonia before you travel and be really mindful that in Girona you're in the heartland of Catalonia. Spain is made up from several autonomous communities like Galicia, the Basque Country, Asturias and Catalonia. Girona is in Catalonia and is also the heartland of the independence movement. So I think to get the best out of your time here and to try and build nice relationships with the locals that you meet, it's really cool to learn some basic Catalan phrases and try them out when you come. You'll get a lovely warm welcome in return. So my top phrases are bon dia, good morning, café amb llet, coffee with milk, si us plau, please, and merci, thank you. Cyclists also greet each other with deu, a short version of adeu, which is a nice greeting which actually translates as goodbye. A good thing to be mindful of when you're planning your trip to Girona is actually when not to come. So Girona is generally fantastic all year round, but I would avoid the peak of summer, that's July and August. It's pretty hot, it's pretty humid. Town is also a bit like a ghost town because everybody's at the beach. However, if you don't mind the heat or you don't mind riding really early in the morning, then it can actually be pretty nice as town is really nice and quiet. Another time you should probably avoid is April during the Temps de Flors. It's this massive tourist attraction and it means that everything's fully booked, everything's double the price, and it's actually impossible to walk around the old town or get a reservation in a restaurant. So that for me is a bit of a no-go if you're here to enjoy a relaxed cycling holiday. The last time to be aware of when it's pretty busy is the Fires, which is at the end of October, the beginning of November. So there's pluses and minuses. There's big parties every night that can get pretty noisy. There's lots of live music and a big party vibe. So if that's something you might quite enjoy, it could be a good time to come, but otherwise you're best to avoid those couple of weeks. Another thing to consider is to be aware of the recent anti-cycling movement. So after 20 years of Girona really embracing cyclists, there's a small group of people that have associated cyclists here with the mass anti-tourism protests in Spain. So it's something to be aware of, but it's not a massive problem. And I think what we do at Eat Sleep Cycle is we advise our guests to respect the rules of the road, stop at traffic lights, follow the one-way systems, and ensure that we're presenting a really positive outlook to the local population, many of whom are cyclists too. And really this is something that Girona, the local government, the tourist board, they're continuing to invest in Girona as a cycling destination. So it's just something to be aware of. So a good thing to get your head around before you come is the eating hours here in Girona. So if you can adapt and do things how the locals do, it will make your experience a lot smoother. So here's how it works. At about 10 o'clock, locals will have a small breakfast. They'll then pause for lunch. That tends to be around between 1, 3, maybe even till 4 o'clock. So during this lunchtime, it's also siesta time, which means that all of the local businesses tend to shut down. So you've got to time your day to not do really anything other than eat between 1 and 3 p.m. When things start to open up around 5, you can go for a stroll. You'll see people still eating, but they're still having lunch. So you still can't have your dinner yet. You need to wait another 3 hours or so until 8 p.m. If this is like a little bit scary for you, a big tip is to load up with groceries. So make sure you've got lots of snacks on standby so that you can bridge the gap between lunch and then dinner. Another tip for having an awesome time in Girona is to steal Strava routes with caution. So as you know, Girona is a city that's got lots of pro riders here, and they're doing huge training loads each week. And the type of ride they will do is very different to the ride that you're probably going to enjoy on your holiday. So pros are more focused on what intervals they need to do that day. They're going to take the fastest route on a big main road to the climb that they need to do their training. So I would advise looking for routes that are enjoyed by normal riders like ourselves, like me, and making sure that they're routes that are avoiding the main roads, on the lovely quiet places, through the lovely medieval towns with great little opportunities for coffee and photos. So if you are looking for some really nice routes for your cycling holiday, then you can check out our website, and also we have a wall of routes in our bike hire centre that you can download. My last tip is sadly about doing the best that you can to avoid bike theft. So where there are beautiful bikes, there are bike thieves. In Girona it's not a massive problem, but it is something just to be aware of. I would advise to always keep your beautiful bike in sight, maybe have a little lightweight cafe lock, so you know when you're having a coffee you don't have to stress, but do always keep it in sight. I would never lock a nice bike on a street in any city, and the same applies to here in Girona. So those are my tips as a local, having lived here for over 8 years. So if you've got any questions, pop them in the comments below. And if you like this video and want to hear more, please hit the subscribe button.